Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Ukrainian show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and today's guests are Professor Don Worthington from Utah. Welcome to the show, Don.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Sasha.
Great to have you, and also multi-million or maybe already $1 billion fund, hedge fund manager, Shaquille Vladimir. Welcome to the show, Shaquille.
Thank you for having me. Former fund manager. I'm now
Oh,
very,
former.
very unemployed at the moment, and I'm rather enjoying being a bum.
So can I call you former and future? Something like
Something like that.
that? Excellent. This is, as you know, a Ukrainian show, and obviously the greatest thing what affects the ability of Ukraine to stop Russians is a help of United States of America, along with European countries, of course. And here is a crucial role still belongs, although it's at this point it's unclear who is in charge, the president Joe Biden or nominee Kamala Harris, and before she was vice president. So it seems to me that you cannot separate, okay, here is Joe Biden, here is Kamala Harris, and so on. It's almost interwoven, and looks like it's kind of a systems that we have to really explain to our listeners. A lot of them are friends of Ukraine. And there are debates right now whether what Biden done so far, whether it was positive for Ukraine or negative, whether it actually spells out the wishes of American people towards Ukraine or not. So one point of view is that Biden is a great strategist who could unite NATO countries and provide great help to Ukraine, and so Ukraine was able to fight and stop Russians. Now, the second point of view, same, probably even more popular in latest days, is that Biden, in fact, his impediment on the will of American people to help Ukraine, because the latest example is that by, I think it was 24th of April, when Congress approved $61 billion worth help of Ukraine. And now, 3 months later, I've just learned that out of $61 billion in 3 months, guess the number what was actually used? It's $1.2 billion. So here is the $60 billion which were approved for helping Ukraine, and they are sitting somewhere, I guess, is it Mr. Biden's private bank, or where the money is? So let's discuss that. And of course, Dan, I would like to start with you. What do you think? What you make out of it? So one, he's a great strategist, helping Ukrainian people. And on the other hand, he's not doing that great job.
Well, I mean, all you have to do is watch Biden perform publicly to know that he's really not all there, nor is he really capable of doing much more than reading a teleprompter and shuffling in and off stages and falling downstairs and that kind of thing, right? So I don't think he's calling the shots. I think someone else is. That's typical, though, of presidencies, right? You have these staffs, you have these strategists and other people that are doing things. Now, the purpose of the Ukrainian aid wasn't really to help Ukraine. It was to help the military industrial complex in the United States get funding to build more weapons, to add to the gross national product of the United States, and to benefit the investors in those companies who are probably cronies of the Bidens and other, world globalist investors, right? So we see that Ukraine is really being used as a pawn in this battle between Russia and essentially proxy battle with the United States, and now NATO, right? So you cannot excuse Putin for anything he's done. It's been wrong. It's been inhumane, even against his own people. It has, because he has sent, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, soldiers to the Ukraine to die. He knew they would. You're just cannon fodder, and that's wrong. He's destroyed so many beautiful buildings in Ukraine and infrastructure and other things. He's put people at risk with these nuclear plants and other things, and cutting infrastructure off. He's created one of the largest humanitarian problems in the world because of his policies. But Washington isn't innocent in all this, because no one really is doing anything about trying to preserve life and create peace and to preserve a future for Ukraine. It's not heading in that direction, Sasha, because there's sort of a stalemate. Russia has more military might to throw at Ukraine. It's just been sort of giving a half-assed uh, effort at fighting this war. You know that, I know that. And so it's a stalemate. It's a deliberate stalemate. It's bleeding the West of its resources. It's bleeding NATO. It's causing disruption around the world. It's increased the alliance between the Russians and the Chinese, who are now meddling in the Middle East as well and all around the world. And so I think it's been a colossal mistake the way it's been. So if there's any brilliance as far as strategy here, I don't see it.
Dan, when you're saying that it's not really Biden, but somebody else is running the show, and Biden just basically they are like a figurehead or just a spokesman or somebody else. Okay, I will not argue about that. It's possible, but then same question. If Congress approved $61 billion 3 months ago, and in 3 months, only $1.2 billion was actually sent to help Ukraine. So who is engineering that? Who is the same people who are behind Biden, who are telling him what to say and what to do? How does it work?
I really don't know, but where there's money, there's corruption. And so I don't know where the money is. I don't know why it hasn't been deployed. I know there are problems, domestic problems and issues and political problems that the Democrats are dealing with right now. It may have to do with fiscal policy and other things. I don't know. Sasha, do you have any, or Shaquille, do you have any ideas?
Shaquille.
Well, I'll echo the corruption, even if it's not corruption level, which is criminal. It's certainly moral corruption, I would say. There was some sort of issue in Australia, and I'm sorry I don't have all the details on this, but I believe it had something to do with military helicopters, and Australia decided that we were going to ground that fleet and just get rid of that fleet because it was too dangerous. And the Ukrainians said, "Well, can we have them? Can we have these? If you're just going to throw them away, can we please have them?" And Australia said, "No, it's a safety risk." And the Ukrainians said, "We're in the middle of a bloody war. Give it to us. We'll take the risk. We need them."
We don't
and
care.
Australia went, "No." And then there was a protest. I was in Sydney City, and there was this massive protest in support of Palestine. And there was this little group of people that were trying to support the Ukraine that just got no attention. And they were saying the same thing. They're like, "What? We don't understand. You say that you support us. This is military equipment that we can use that we need. Just give it to us. You don't even want the stuff." And it just didn't make any sense. And I kind of have to say, look at what we did. And when I say we, I mean you guys, Dan and America. What the hell was that Afghanistan withdrawal? That is that has got to be one of the most embarrassing failures, not just for your country, but for all of the rest of us that went in there as well. The Five Eyes nations are supposed to be this powerful group. Don't mess with us or else. Or else what? We'll do nothing. We'll give you a couple $100 billion worth of military equipment. Oh, yeah. The amount of military equipment that's in Afghanistan is worth more than the amount of military equipment that most militaries in the world have outside of the big, massive nations like the US. So, like, couldn't that equipment have been shipped over to the Ukraine? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. And the worst thing about it is, not the worst, but one of the terrible things about it is the amount of Ukrainian families that have been broken up. The young mothers that have taken their kids and fled into Europe, who are actually oftentimes being exploited when they get to Europe, who then may never go back. You know, there's a lot of damage that's going to take generations to build and, you know, to fix. And, you know, one of the things that Russian women talk about, and to a lesser degree Ukrainian women talk about, is that there's a shortage of men because of all the conflict. They struggle to find partners, and of the available men, a lot of them suffer from alcoholism. A lot of them are a bit more abusive because they have sort of these old school values and things like that. That situation is going to become even more pronounced. And I have to say that I think that I'm not going to relieve Putin of any responsibility here. It's his fault. However, we need to shoulder some blame here. That's what I was trying to express yesterday or a couple of days ago, was we knew that there was a problem brewing, and we could have done something like putting more military in, or you know, taking action to shore up, the situation. But we didn't. We just sat back and did nothing. And even the annexation of Crimea, we just sat back and did nothing. So, you know, why wouldn't Putin go in? So I do think that we have a responsibility to the Ukrainian people to do more than what we've been doing, which is just to give them some money and then bring Zelensky over to do a speech every now and then at Congress. You know, give him, you know, yeah, that's great, cheers, you know, clap for him. Here's another check, go away. That's not doing anything. If I was Ukrainian, I'd be pretty bitterly disappointed.
Yeah.
In the first days of Russian invasion, Biden offered to Zelensky have a plane to evacuate him and his family out of Kiev, because there was of course, feeling that Russia will overtake Kiev in about a few days and so on. And you know what Zelensky replied to that? He said, "We need weapons, not a taxi."
Mm.
That's what he said, because the Ukrainians were resolved to fight Russians and protect their country.
Can I ask a question here? That this will show my complete lack of knowledge about the geopolitical situation over there. It's sort of a question not directly related to the Ukraine here. Just looking at the size of Russia, it must be enormously hard to keep a country of that physical size together. There's obviously a shared, or you know, you can almost walk across the water. You can always swim across, can't you, from Alaska to Russia? And in fact, the native people there apparently have special visas that allow them to come and go. Can Russia ever be attacked from that side, from the east side, as opposed to the western side of it? Has that ever been done?
It's very possible scenario. In fact, China has enormous territorial claims against Russia, because in 19th century, a huge chunk of anything whatever north of Mongolia and China, which is part today Siberia, it's eastern Siberia, going all the way to Vladivostok, from the Lake Baikal to Vladivostok really. So even recently, a few months ago, China published new maps where all these Russian cities, including Vladivostok, had Chinese names. And Russia was tremendously upset about it, but they used it and they didn't retract it. Now, what's happened in reality, this is phenomena even from Second World War, that Russian population consists of 60% of females and only 40% of males. And if you will take this 40%, a major portion of them are drunks, people who are not working and not have any desire to work, people who abuse their wives or girlfriends or something, men who, half of them actually, sorry to say, impotent. So in this situation in Siberia, the Chinese men there are of a huge value to the Russian women because they don't drink, they don't beat their wives, they're very hardworking, and once they married a Chinese guy, they're prosperous. They have kids, they have their buildings, their houses, and so on. And there are now quite a few villages in Siberia which have Chinese husbands and Russian wives. So it will take almost no time, as if you will have a referendum of whether that territory should remain in Russia or join China. You will
Well,
see
maybe
results.
what we should do then, maybe we should get the Americans to do a false flag operation to drop all of this, these pamphlets in saying this territory is actually Chinese, and then see if Putin has the balls to go and attack China.
Actually, this is the easiest way to make the relationship with China is not great between the United States and China. So to make China friends, it's very easy. You say, China, take over your territory. Why you need
Exactly.
little
See,
Taiwan?
I should be a military strategist now. See what great ideas I've come up with. But on a serious question here, though, because whenever you've got a large country, which is large in population or in land space or in both, it's very hard to keep the people together. India is a good example of this. The United States is sort of becoming like that, but not really. I mean, they're pretty aligned on most things. They just don't realize it. But a country like Russia, it's you've got Moscow, you've got St. Petersburg, and you've got these other cities that are just in the middle of nowhere that probably have no idea what's going on in Moscow and Russia. Do you think that the Russian Federation could ever be broken up into smaller, self-governing countries like the CIS countries of today?
I have no doubts about that. That's exactly what will happen once the war will be over, and there will be change in government in Russia. And I don't think that Russia will remain one country. Obviously, people. You see, what's happened right now is the economic model of Russia is that obviously it's 100% military economy. They can exist, that economy can exist only during the war. If there will be no more war, all this economy will collapse. They have to create something else. Now, today, as the last 18, 19 years, Moscow sucks away all financial resources of all remain Russia. Everything is going to Moscow. So let's see if a place like in Siberia, there is a lot of oil, and they producing a lot of oil, but who gets the money? All money goes to Moscow because all the oil wells and the facilities owned by Russian oligarchs who are part of Putin's conglomerate, and Putin essentially controls all financial resources of Russia. That's why people believe that he is the richest man in the world. And that's
so. How would you see this playing out? Do you think that there would be an internal civil war within Russia that would cause Russia to break up, or do you think it'll be international pressure, or a combination of both, or what?
Combination of both, but I don't think it will be even a war because okay, let's say you take a region of Russia, let's say oil-rich region, let's say Western Siberia. There is a lot of oil. And if they decide that, okay, Moscow, thank you very much, you've done for us so much for all those years, from now on, we want to have our own economy, our own boundary, ownership of the local resources. Is Moscow going to with a war against the Western Siberian Republic? I don't think so. I think that.
Well, haven't they had that like in Kazakhstan and I was going to say Chechnya. It's not Chechnya. Kosovo, I think, is a place I'm thinking of. Kazakhstan, Kosovo, like all these other areas, hasn't there been massive conflict? And Russia's been much more powerful, and there's just continued to be a lot of issue.
Shaquille, to understand that, you have to go all the way back to the times of Soviet Union. Soviet Union controlled all the regions of Russia, and not only Russia, but countries like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. They were parts, same as Ukraine. They were all parts of Soviet Union, and they had very little say. They didn't have their own armies. They had little to say of how things are done, so on. Once Soviet Union fell apart, it was happened in December of 1991, and three major republics came with a decision. It was Russia, headed by Boris Yeltsin at the time. It was Ukraine, headed by then Kravchuk, and Belarus. So when these three republics made a decision that Soviet Union no longer exists, and according to the founding documents of Soviet Union, it was invented by three Slavic republics, which is Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. And once these three Slavic republics saying that Soviet Union no longer exists, and that's what they said on, I think it was December 8th. Now, why did they do that? All of them wanted to get rid of Gorbachev. They wanted to become their own rulers who don't report to anybody. That was, of course, a major point. However, one important difference between Ukraine and Russia and Belarus, on the other hand, is that on December 1st of 1991, there was election in Ukraine, and a referendum whether Ukraine should continue its existence in some kind of a quasi-new Soviet Union, or they should get out of it. Kravchuk won the presidency, and referendum was about 98%, was that Ukraine should have nothing to do with Soviet Union or the remains of Soviet Union or future Soviet Union, whatever it might be, 98% out. So, interestingly enough, during these meetings in Belarus around December 8th, Yeltsin approached Kravchuk, the president of Ukraine, and said to him that I have special message from Mr. Gorbachev. He says, okay, what is the message? He said that he would like you to consider joining this new variant of Soviet Union on any conditions what you would like to propose, and we will be discussing to accept them. What would you say? And Kravchuk said that, look, in order to do that, I have to immediately resign as a president of Ukraine. Because if 98% of population said what they want to do, and I will do the opposite thing, I must resign instantly. And if I resign, you don't need me and my agreement or disagreement, because I will be nobody the moment I resign. He said, oh, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Oh, by the way, why do we need Gorbachev? Maybe we also don't need Gorbachev. And he himself and Belarusian president said, yeah, hell with Gorbachev. And they called, not Gorbachev about their decision, they called to President of the United States, Bush Sr., and they informed him that there will be no longer Soviet Union. It's all done. And only then they informed Gorbachev about this. And that's how Gorbachev lost the power. That's how the Russia and Belarus and the Ukraine got their independence. And then, of course, all other former Soviet republics, they became independent because there was no country that would rule them. It was gone. And so, same as Russia became independent country, Ukraine and Russia, so was Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and all those stans, and Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Baltic states, they got out even before that. and they were very successfully joined the Western institutions such as European Union and NATO and all the rest. So this is a short excursus in history to explain where we are today. However, a lot of things happened since that time. And there was a time in beginning of 1992, Russia was so weak, it's unbearable. There was a meeting of Yeltsin's cabinet of ministers. They had only one question on their agenda. There was absolutely no bread in Russia. There was a vessel in Rotterdam full of grain ready to depart, and all what had to happen is the grain was already paid. They had to pay $10,000 for docking charges and handling charges, and the meeting was where to find $10,000. Just think about it. So I'm of the opinion that if Bush Sr. would play his hand right, he could, for a song, say for $500 million, maybe $1 billion, I don't know, get all a Russian nuclear arsenal, everything. Russia would be free nuclear territory if Bush would play his cards right. Dan, what do you think about this option?
Well, you know, it didn't happen.
Of course it didn't.
And so Bush wasn't particularly astute either, was he? You know, having said that, though, the Russian people were suffering immensely because of the poverty and hunger. And so, you know, I think that they did the right thing in helping alleviate that suffering. But the Russians have short memories, don't they? It wasn't long before, and especially with Putin, right? He wants to recapture the glory days. Well, that really isn't going to happen. The world's changed. Move on, dude. Right? You want to maintain power. The only way to maintain power is by being military, basically a dictator, and pushing a military agenda all around. There's just nowhere to go. And look what he's done now. He's actually lost territory to the Chinese because of his idiocy in Ukraine. And it's going to continue to be like that. It's foolish. You can't trust the Chinese. Putin should know that. His best bet is to moderate back out, find a solution to this war, focus on his own country, and maybe they sell weapons to what other idiots that want to blow themselves up, right?
Well, I think
I think the real tragedy of it. We live in Western countries. We criticize our governments for not being responsive enough to the things that we want. I think it's fair criticism. We're trying to create a better country. We're trying to create a better future for ourselves and for our families. But we never have had to endure the kind of suffering that people that you've just described, Sasha, in Russia and many other parts of the world have. And I don't know how you'd sleep at night. You can be powerful and benevolent to the people that put you there, or you can be a tyrant. And how could you possibly sleep at night knowing that there are people in your country that don't have enough to eat because of your own greed and selfishness? And that's what it sounds like has happened in the politics of that.
But hasn't bothered Biden, right? He's managed his economy.
Sure, but I don't think that's quite a comparison. I mean, $10,000 to get the wheat so that the people can create bread for themselves is not quite. I don't think it's a fair comparison to compare that to Biden, just like I don't think it's a fair comparison to compare Trump to Hitler. So I'll pull back a little bit on that.
Yeah, well, you're right. But my point is that politicians typically don't care about their people.
No,
they don't care. They don't care about their people. It's like Hillary Clinton said, the voters are stupid. The people are sheep, right? That's what she said. That's what she thinks.
Yeah.
These powerful elite people, that's what they believe about the American people. They don't understand that the heartbeat of liberty and freedom beat in our hearts, that these countries are ours. We love our countries. We want them to be successful. We want to be free. God set us on this earth to be free, and we will fight for our freedom. And that's what these idiot politicians don't understand, especially someone like Biden, who's never served in the military or done anything meaningful other than lie in the houses of Congress for
I would certainly hope that the people of modern day Russia and Belarus and Belarus as it's now known as, and other countries start to just have enough. You know, I know we've discussed this before, Sasha, where was it like there was some sort of protest in the parliament or something that happened, and you know the people were getting shot at and they had bombs thrown, grenades thrown, and this went on for days and then weeks, and eventually they couldn't kill them all, and the government acquiesced. So you know, eventually people, I think, can overthrow the powerful structures of Russia, and hopefully one day they'll get to a point where they say enough is enough. You know, we don't want to live like this. And they shouldn't have to. I mean, Russia's got a lot of natural advantages in the world. You know, so does the Ukraine with its fertile land. There's so many opportunities there. You know, surely people would start to see how other people around the world live and say, you know what, we want better. We want better, and we're going to hold these government people responsible for it.
Gentlemen, I would like to thank you very much for today's discussion. I still feel that the question of Biden's impact on what's happened in the Ukrainian affair is still waiting for further discussion and finding solution, whether he's done enough or not enough, or he's a great friend of Ukrainian people, or he is enemy of Ukrainian people. That remains to be answered. I still don't have clear answer. I'm working on it. I'm analyzing his speeches, his actions, whatever he's done, and it's so unclear at this moment. But I hope in next week or two, we will have a clearer understanding of what's really happening. In the meantime, have a great weekend, and I hope to see you next program, same place, same time.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.